Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 12th, 2021 at approximately 5:41 p.m. PST. We've been talking a lot about various things, and right now we've looked at the way energy runs. So if you are just joining me, absolutely take a look at the last few weeks. We've covered the way energy works, we've covered the way that karmic law works. There's a lot of things we've already covered. From this point, it's absolutely imperative that we start actually working as a species on this planet. Okay, we've got to start looking at things and go, okay, the color of somebody's skin doesn't matter. It would be first and foremost. Okay, it matters from the standpoint of it helps you identify different people. Okay, but the reality is every single individual on the planet is of equal value. Okay, and we are not talking monetary value. The reality that most people have overlooked is it is an unspoken responsibility. From everything I've seen, it is an unspoken responsibility for everybody that has the ability to do so to reach out and help the people that don't. And of course, the people that don't have that ability have the responsibility to gracefully accept assistance where it's required and not to take advantage of it. The reality is that none of us can be successful for anybody but ourselves. However, working together, we can actually eliminate these nasty little annoyances like war, famine, and yes, they are major jobs. They are not going to solve themselves. They're not going to solve themselves first. They are also not going to be solved overnight. Now, there's a lot of you that will say, "Oh, these problems are never going to be solved." And they said the same thing about so many different things that have been proven. Okay, for instance, they said the 13 colonies in North America would never form into a country, into a government. Okay, boy, were they wrong. They went from 13 scattered countries from all sorts of different places. I don't know the entire history. Okay, what I do know is that the United States has become a massive powerhouse. And for a place that everybody said they'd never unite, they certainly did. Okay, Australia was people threw what they considered the dregs of society into Australia. Australia turned into a massively successful country. Okay, these are things that people said would never happen. Scotland started off as a bunch of warring clans. They all managed to unite against all odds and turned into a country. It's time for all these countries to do the next step that has already been started. People said the UN would never come into existence, with several different countries agreeing. Well, guess what? It did. Now it's time to take it to the next step, which is to get every race, every species on the planet to start working together. And let's not go with the "it'll never happen." Okay? Because the reality is, it is possible. It's been done before. Okay? Now, I mean, from my standpoint, it's pretty simple. I remember a lot of my past lives. Okay? I remember a lot of things that I cannot prove. Okay? And much more importantly, I'm not interested in proving them. What I do know is that society is going to work, is possible to work. Now, give me half a sec. I'm just going to close the window here. Okay, I'm back. Now, do understand, this is a live recording, meaning when I get finished this, all I do is double check, make sure I got the date right, and then post it. So all the hiccups, all the interruptions, they happen. Okay, I don't edit any of it for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is I've got no interest in editing it. I would rather do a direct video and go, this is the reality behind the way I am. You ever run into me in person or you ever talk to me on Skype, on Messenger, you'll find I'm the same way. You ask me a question, I'll give you a straightforward answer. You may not like the answer. Okay. Because the only thing I can guarantee is I won't lie to you to make you feel better unless you ask me to. Okay, and then it'll be a case of, okay, so you want me to lie to you. Okay, well, here's a lie. I'm not good at it. Anyway, that said, it is time for the peoples of this world and the worlds around us to start working towards what was designed in the first place, a unified world. Okay, the reality behind war is this. It is a heinous thing, it is a terrible thing, and war has never brought peace. Superior firepower has never in all of recorded history brought peace. It's brought quiet. Because let's face it, if people are trying to kill you, you tend to stay a little quiet to stay out of the line of fire. But that's not peace. Okay. Peace is, in my eyes, you go to the park, you sit down, you put your feet up, you enjoy the sun. If you like working on cars, do it in your backyard, sit there, have yourself a nice drink, work on your car, and bear in mind the drink, in my case, drink of choice is coffee. Okay. But sit down, relax, and don't worry about somebody trying to shoot you or blow up your vehicle. Okay. Peace is something that is attainable on a global level. Okay. But it's going to require the effort of everybody out there. I can't do it on my own. Okay, nobody can do it on their own. Let's face it, there are 7.5 billion people plus, and that's just counting the humans. Okay, to get turned around. But if everybody works on their own little part of the world and eliminates the things that are negative, the things they're not content with, they eliminate them and simply keep around them things that make them happy. What we all of a sudden have is, instead of a world that is just riddled with chaos, riddled with fear, okay, we've got a world that the majority of people are getting along. Now, yes, there are absolutely some people out there that are just completely off kilter. Okay, there are legitimate sociopaths, people that just don't have that connection. There are legitimate people that have complications. And this is why there have to be laws in place, why there has to be a government, but the reality behind the laws is they have to apply to everybody. Okay? For instance, if a law exists and the enforcers of the law are not following the law, then the people that they're trying to enforce the laws upon aren't going to pay attention. If a politician is standing at the front of a group of people at a rally, and he is not being honest, then you can bet that the cabinet he gets working with him, or the supporters he's got working with him at the core of the government, are also not going to be honest. Karmic law says energy out, energy in, meaning whatever you put your effort into, that's what you're going to draw back. Another little proven thing that I've seen over the years. Don't take my word for this. Do your own research. But it seems that every time something ends up on the front page of the newspaper, or in today's world, on the front of a news feed, that's what gets replicated. Now, we also already know that the people that are perpetrating the crimes, in the majority of cases, are looking for attention. They're looking for some sort of recognition. If you're retweeting all the horrendous things going on, if you're plastering the picture of somebody robbing somebody, if you're putting that on the front page of the paper, okay, this is giving these people recognition. Now, you already know that. If you work in the industry, you already know that this is going to get people's attention. Okay, what you may not realize is the damage that it does actually to the individuals and to the community at large. If you're running a religious center, a church, a temple, a coven, just simply a spiritual group, if you're drawing these people in and they're turning to you for guidance and you're going, fear whatever, okay, And this goes all the way from the churches all the way down to the little private little groups. Okay, people talk about prejudicial groups. Okay, and I could list off ones, but there's all sorts of ones that people can chalk up. Okay, and the reality is, if you're getting into a group that is talking about fear everybody, kill whoever you don't agree with, anything like this, and especially when we start looking at the religious side of things, if you're being told to fear God, God is supposed to be the one that loves everybody. If the person you're turning to for guidance is telling you, fear the one that's supposed to love you, well, I can't imagine why the world is in the state it's in. Okay. We have laws out there right now that are absolutely insane, in my opinion. Okay, and I've talked to different grocery stores and what have you, and restaurants that are told literally, it is illegal to feed the poor. And then they wonder why the poor are having major problems. Okay, everybody on the planet desires food in their stomach. Okay, everybody on the planet desires shelter. Now, some people see shelter in different ways. I knew a chap personally that saw shelter as living on the street. He thoroughly enjoyed living on the street, sleeping outside under the stars. Okay, and he showed me his bank account, his bank book. His bank book was a high six-figure income, and he chose to live on the street. But understand, he was a rarity. Contrary to popular belief, most of the people that are on the street are not there because, they want to live on the street, or, it's better on the street. Okay, it's a question in most cases of they couldn't find any sort of stability at home, whatever the reason. Maybe the rules that were being put in were not equal. And if the laws that are being put in place are not applying to everybody, okay, then what happens is that society will fracture. Now, in the fractured society, if those laws do not apply to everybody, that subset will also fracture. Today, we have an absolutely staggering amount of fractured little communities, all fighting with each other. It's time to put the weapons down. And I don't mean just the guns and the knives. I'm referring to the words. It's time for people to start going, okay, here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. These people, yeah, they're different than me, but they've gone through different things. Okay. Now, the last thing I was planning on doing myself was ending up going down this road, but it seems this is the road I'm going down. Okay, so take a look at the people beside you. Now, we've got a mess here, and it's a global pandemic. Whether people like what it is, whether people trust the government or want to blame the government, doesn't matter. Call it what you will. The reality is it's there. Now, I was in a mall today. Okay. Now, on the front door of the mall, it said, wear a mask. Whether you agree with the mask or not is irrelevant. That's what the law in that mall was. Okay, now, there's a karmic law that says, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. The mall put up this sign that said, you must wear a mask. Okay, now, just to be clear, I don't agree with the mask myself, but I wear the mask when I'm out in public because it is the law. And it's not just me that I'm wearing it for. Okay, if I'm going to tell you, follow the law where it's at all possible, okay, I am referring to doing just that. I follow the law as I can. There's a lot of the ones that are out there that I don't personally agree with. But the thing that before I get too far off track, the thing I saw in the mall was something that just absolutely appalled me. The sign said, wear a mask. It did not say wear a mask if you agree with it. It said wear a mask if you're going to enter the building. And yet I saw a few people walking in. Most people wore a mask, no problem. But there were a few people that wandered in and blatantly didn't bother with a mask. Now, in my opinion, those people should have been turned around and told to get out of the building. It's just that simple. The law said, wear a mask. We're talking about a piece of cloth. And like I said, I don't agree with it personally. But when I go out in public where I'm going to a place where it says wear a mask, I won't enter the building if I don't have a mask. Okay, it's not asking a whole lot, except to respect the laws of the land in which you are. Okay, and when people start doing this, we will find that all of a sudden, or it's going to seem like all of a sudden, okay, the people in this world will start getting along a little better. Wars are usually fought because of fear. Fear of loss, fear of lack, fear of any number of things, not the least of which is fear of retribution. Okay, but the reality is, and back in the old days, like when we go back to the Middle Ages, the leaders of countries that said we're going to war, the leaders of the countries were at the front of the battle lines. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm 100% against war. I feel it is a waste of effort, it's a waste of energy, and it's a waste of lives. Okay, and I'm not just referring to human lives. It's amazing how many animals get killed, how many plants get killed because of bombing, and people just totally overlook this. Okay, they have enough trouble paying attention to the fact that, oh, there's a whole cluster of people over there, they're dead, but it wasn't my people, so I'm okay. But way back, when the leaders said we're going to war, the leaders went to war. Now, like I said, I am a firm believer that if you put the guns down, nobody gets shot. It's just that simple. If everybody puts guns down, nobody gets shot. I'm also a firm believer that if a government says, I want to go to war, and I am 100% behind the people that have joined the military, that have gone in to defend their country, to defend what they believe is right. I absolutely back them up. However, the reality is this. Like in World War II. Okay, in World War II on Christmas Day, there was no ceasefire. No general, no lieutenant, nobody said stop firing, and yet both the Axis and the Allies quit fighting. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Okay, my understanding is that on Christmas Day, both sides on the front line quit shooting at each other. They crossed the lines, they sat down, they had Christmas dinner together, they exchanged gifts, which, albeit a lot of the times it was guns, but it was bullets, this sort of thing. Many times it was cigarettes or a drink. What never made any sense to me is they stopped the fight without any order to start, to stop it. And yet, on Boxing Day, once they'd done everything, they finished off the Christmas, and they went back home, went back to their own front lines, and they opened fire the following morning. What never made sense to me is why they opened fire again. But the reality is, when you're dealing with getting along with people, understand everybody is exactly in the same place right this moment, no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what your age, nothing. You're all starting in exactly the same place. You're starting right where you are right this moment. And as I was talking to a pastor earlier today, and like I told him, now understand, I have a Christian background. I grew up in a Christian church. But like I told this pastor this morning, okay, this morning or yesterday, like I told him, if God created everything, then God created every one of the religions out there. And if you look at the guidelines to all of the different religions, okay, and compare them to your own, you'll find that almost all of them are the same. One thing I've looked into myself is if you take a look at the three karmic laws, be true to yourself first, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, energy out, energy in. If you look at those 3 laws, compare them to whatever guidelines you're working under, whether it's a group guideline, a religious group, what they call a pagan group, whatever, it doesn't matter. Look at the guidelines you're working with and compare them to those 3 laws. And you'll find that that all of them fall into those 3. Now, I'm asking you, for pity's sakes, if you come across a law or a guideline that does not fit into there, drop me a line at one of the contact points below this video and let me know, because I've looked into a lot of different religions, different spiritual paths over the years, and I've got a lot of them documented, and from everything I can tell, they all fit into those 3. Now, the reality behind it is this. We can continue promoting fear, we can continue broadcasting fear, and I'm not saying you shouldn't report the bad things that happen in life. I absolutely tell you, you should be reporting them. If they aren't reported, they don't get cleared up. It's like identifying the things you're not content with. Okay, if you don't do anything about it, it stays the same. And the only constant in reality is change. Whether you want it to change or not, doesn't matter. But it is time for people to sit down and go, okay, I don't care what name you use it. If you're worshiping somebody that says, that is telling you this is fear, kill whatever doesn't agree with you. If you're worshiping somebody that says that, you might want to rethink. Okay, because life, you will find, if you're concentrating more on enjoying yourself than you are on shooting at people or on arguing or fighting with them, okay, then you may find that you have a lot more enjoyment if you're not looking at the conflict, if you're not instigating the conflict. Now, you notice, when we have a natural disaster, nobody asks, who do you vote for, or who do you worship, or how much money do you have, before they dig people out of the wreckage. And you can bet your bottom dollar that when we're looking at this pandemic, whether you believe it's a pandemic or you believe it's all a media hoax, the reality is the same. There are people dying from it. Okay, there are people that are suffering tragic problems because of it. Okay, but one thing is for absolute certain. The virus itself is not asking people who they vote for. It is not asking people how old they are. It is not asking people what religion they are. The virus is taking out everybody. Okay, just like a forest fire, just like a city fire. Okay, fires, diseases, floods, natural disasters on the whole. Don't ask what your pocketbook looks like before they decide they're going to burn your house down. Okay. And rest assured, if you're on a sinking boat, right? If you're out on a boat and your boat's sinking, and somebody comes along and offers to help you, are you going to sit there while your boat is sinking? Are you going to ask them, "Oh, do you worship the same person I do, or do you have as much money as I've got?" Okay, before you accept assistance? If you do, you may find that you don't have quite as much assistance as you'd like. Okay, it is absolutely time for people to start working together to make this a better world. Okay, it's time for integrity to come back to the surface, for work ethic to come back on track. Okay, it's amazing how many people hold down a job and literally refuse to do the job they were on that they accepted. Okay. It's time to take responsibility for your own actions. If you've got a job and you were hired to do a job, do that job. Okay. Now, granted, if your boss is asking you to do more than what you were paid for, okay, be cautious. Okay, obviously they've got the ability to fire you. However, if they start putting too many things on, okay, it is wise to ask them about, look, I was hired for this. if I'm doing all this extra stuff, am I cutting back on this other job or am I getting paid more? It's reasonable to ask, but do so with respect. Okay, and think of it this way. Do you respond better if somebody asks you something politely with a smile on their face, or if they're holding a gun in your face and yelling at you? Which one do you feel better about cooperating with? Okay, I've tried both. It really didn't help much. Okay, and I've got a very twisted outlook on life anyway. But the reality of today's world is it's time that we start working as a species, as co-denizens of this planet. Okay, and start working towards making this a better world for everybody. Okay, now, well, whether it's okay or not really doesn't matter. It is what it is. And like I said, I'm not perfect. I have my flaws, in case you hadn't noticed. But with that in mind, I do try and keep these short. Okay, so we're coming up to the half-hour mark here. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to get the rest of the videos coming out. Take a look at the list of books that I've already got in print that can be ordered directly through me, that takes a lot of this information and compartmentalizes it. You can only order it through me, and the contact points to get a hold of me are at the bottom of this video. Okay, there's a whole pile of places. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, obviously YouTube. Okay, think that's pretty much it. But drop me a line, and if you've got questions about this video or about any other, drop me a line. If you've got questions and you would like clarification, or just something comes up from anything, drop me a line and ask. I will do my best to answer. Now, with this in mind, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will be back tomorrow, okay, at some point. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.